Welcome to the podcast. This particular little episode, we're going to focus on true crime, Jodes, because there's a lot of people in our team who are obsessed with it.
A little too much so. So much so it scares the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Yet they continue to do it.
Yeah, I know. It's so strange as well when Abby turns up to work and she's literally got knives and she's like, "Oh no, sorry about that. I was just listening to a true crime podcast. I was like, don't mind this." You're like, "Why are they covered in blood?" She's like, "Don't be silly."
You actually were walking around with a knife the other day.
I actually was, because I had to make banana bread to say sorry for sleeping through my alarm and missing my entire shift the other week.
Yeah.
So I baked a banana bread, and then I had to go and get a knife to obviously cut it up to give you all
But
a
then you
piece.
stopped to have a conversation with a few people and it was very disconcerting.
And then she stripped off, started dancing with and put it on Instagram, a la Britney Spears.
Yes, exactly. Channeling Britney Spears.
Good vibe.
Just like a circus.
You better work, bitch.
Swish, swish, bish. Let's talk true crime.
Yeah, let's talk true crime. So we were talking about this the other week, and essentially, what's your big true crime story, the one that you sort of still can't get out of your head? Mine definitely was the Golden State Killer story. So this guy, essentially all through California, he was the Visalia ransacker, he was the Golden State Killer, he had all these different names. He committed over hundreds of crimes.
Right.
So he would go and he'd ransack homes, and then he'd stalk people, and then it eventually got to the point where he was killing people as well. And they could not find him. In all these searches and everything, obviously back in the 70s or whatever, you didn't have all the things that you have now, like DNA and all of that. Anyway, fast forward literally 30, 40 years later, and they nab the Golden State Killer from DNA. They find a DNA sample. And they also use genealogy results as well. So you go on and you look and see, who's in your family and all of that sort of thing. Anyway, but there's a piece of audio, and I think it's because of this audio. I don't think I slept without a light on for about 4 weeks.
Right.
So take a listen.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Oh my God, I was getting shivers.
Yes.
What is he saying?
So basically, what he did was he started stalking people. So he would watch people and see what their routine was like. So, oh yeah, you live with your husband, but he leaves for work at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're home with your kid for, a few hours, and then you go here, blah, blah, blah. And then he would call them and just terrorize them, essentially. And also, after he committed a crime, so say he'd go to the house, he would tie them up, he would sexually assault them, all that sort of thing. Sometimes at the start he let them live, but then obviously as it progressed he killed them. But then he would terrorize them afterwards. So he'd call them afterwards and do prank calls like that for months afterwards. It's the most fascinating and terrifying crime I think I've ever watched. And there was also a documentary. So there's a guy called Paddy Oswalt. He is a actor. His wife got asked to do a piece for a newspaper about the case. So she got all the police files. Obviously, there's all the crime scene photos, all of that. She ended up actually dying from heart issues because she was so invested in this piece, and it just essentially in the end it killed her. But she put out this article, and then they did "I'll Be Gone in the Dark," which is what he used to say to people, and they did this big documentary on. I'm pretty sure it was Binge. And it is just terrifying. It is just terrifying, the stuff that he did to these people. But then obviously 40 years later got nabbed, and now he's in jail.
Right.
As a 70-something-year-old man.
So how many people did he actually kill?
I think it was like 10 in the end, but there was hundreds and hundreds of burglaries. Yeah, wild.
But my question is, though, if he breaks in and he assaults them and he terrorises them, how come the police couldn't catch him?
So he used to wear a ski mask, number one. Number two, though, they didn't have mobile phones even back then.
Oh.
So he would go and he would use like a bike or run off or whatever and go to a car that was waiting, essentially. But they were saying in this documentary how they just didn't have it's not like today where, someone sees something or there's CCTV or whatever. He'd go running into like a swamp. But he was married the whole time, and his wife said that he'd say he's out fishing or he was at work or whatever.
Yeah.
But as they're nailing it down, and it goes on.
Well, she's an idiot.
As they're nailing it down to who it is, they essentially find out that he was a cop, and he got let go from the force because he got done for shoplifting, and he shoplifted spray that deters dogs.
Oh.
So dog repellent. And he got let go. So as they're dwindling down, they find, okay, this is like the people from the genealogy site. This is the people who were living in this space at the time and blah, blah, blah. And they're going down. But yeah, he was a cop, so he knew to wear gloves and have something over his face and things like that. And yeah, they didn't have DNA. They didn't have fingerprints. And it took them this long to be able to find out who had done it.
Yeah, wow.
Christ, why do you do this to yourself?
I don't know.
Honestly, I'll go home and watch Morning Wars and just feel happy about my life.
Yeah.
I know. I need to.
It's just as aggressive too.
Even
TV Wars.
Morning Wars.
Just as aggressive behind the scenes.
Do you know what's so fascinating? You want to talk about true crime? Yeah. That's true media. That's true TV. Oh my God. I just sit there and go, wow, that's my life.
That's a true crime in itself. But yeah, the fall of the House of Usher. That's on Netflix at the moment. Oh, my goodness. I had nightmares. Mum literally was pissing herself laughing because I said I wanted the hallway light left on. Yeah. And Dad's like, oh, for God's sakes, Abby, go to bed, and turns it off. And Mum came down and went, do you want the hallway light on? And I was like, yes. And she left it on for me.
Both be terrified together.
So I didn't realise our newsreader was 15.
I am. I literally am. I have, travelled back in time.
Criminology is unbelievably fascinating. And also genealogy, which you were talking about before, which, of course, is the study of genies. It's like, how do they get in the bottle? How does such a big genie get in the bottle?
How do they grant all your wishes?
How do they grant all the wishes? How do they have such magic power? And also, your favourite genie of all time. It's got to be Robin Williams.
Yeah, and I've never seen a genie wearing a balaclava and gloves.
No.
Carrying rope around of you.
Crazy, isn't it?
Weird.
Anyway, I highly recommend Golden State Killer. Yeah, it's a wild story, but it will freak you out, and you will be sleeping with your dogs in your bed with the light on back in your childhood home.
Okay, great.
Okay, good stuff. All right, from one messed up human to another, let's go from newsreader Abby to producer Emily, who's also into torturing herself via criminology.
I am, guys. And the story that Abby was just talking about, I listened to while I was living with Mum and Dad on the farm while we were building our house. And
also, do you people adult? Do we all live with our parents?
Oh my gosh, yes.
This was years ago.
And on the farm too. Like, we're nowhere to run.
No, in the middle of nowhere. And so there's also a case file, which is a great true crime podcast, which I think was a 5-part series. And I was listening to that when we were living there. And one of the things they were talking about is with the Golden State Killer, when he would go to some people's houses, he would go through like the back patio door, and back in the 70s people
just left it open,
left it unlocked.
Yeah.
And so one of the women who was attacked but obviously didn't get murdered, she spoke about how she had like a little dog that was going nuts in the middle of the night barking, and she gets up and goes to see what's going on and turns the light on, and on the outside of the patio door, which she had no curtains or anything, is just the Golden State Killer standing there with the ski mask on and had rope and stuff in his hands, and she just absolutely freaked out. And so then when I'm on the farm and we've got 6 dogs living there and they've got to go out to the toilet in the middle of the night, you don't think that I turned 17 lights on before I had to go open the patio door. Anyway, so that story has affected me, and I also didn't sleep a lot, and that was back when I was doing breakfast radio too, so not good times.
So what was the horror movie with the hockey mask? Friday the 13th?
Freddie.
Or Freddy Krueger. Yeah. There's solid vibes about that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, my story that I want to tell you about, I heard on another podcast called My Favourite Murder. And the good thing about...
My Favourite Murder.
Feeling less and less comfortable about working with these people, Hayesy.
Oh my gosh.
The good thing about that podcast is they're doing it how we're doing it now, and they just discuss a murder. And this was one of the earlier ones they did. So it's set in California in the 70s. A man named Lawrence Singleton is driving along one of the highways.
Never trust a lorry. Never. If your first name's Lawrence. Red flag.
And he picked up a 15-year-old hitchhiker. And so her name is Mary Vincent. So they're in California. Her family lived in Las Vegas. She ran away because their parents were getting divorced. She had friends in California, wanted to get away, but then she figured out, I'm homesick, I want to go home. And in the 70s, one of the things they did was hitchhiked. And thank goodness, or hopefully people aren't doing that anymore, because that's the start of so many true crime stories. She is walking along the side of the highway, and he pulls up in his van, and there's 2 hitchhikers behind her, and he goes, nah, sorry, I've only got room for one in the van. And the hitchhikers say to her, don't go in there. Like the
Myself.
van is empty, so he's got plenty of room. And she's like, I'm just so tired. I just want to go home. Like, I just want to get home somehow. And she gets in.
Was there also the promise of candy in the van?
No. And also, you're going home. It's just an ethereal home up in the sky.
Well, and the thing is, the
Conventional home.
Lawrence Singleton was in his 50s and by all reports had a bit of pot belly, just looked like a grandfather. So she probably thought, he's harmless, whatever. So she needed to go to Vegas. He said, I'm going to Reno, which is in Nevada, but it's in a completely different direction. But he goes, that's fine. I'll take you to Vegas.
And then all of a sudden she was like, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Sorry, Em, if we're not taking your podcast seriously.
Sorry about that, Em. Sorry.
Guys, you're going to learn something today, okay? Anyway, so he said, I'll take you. And so then she is sitting in the front seat and dozes off. She's super tired. She's been hitchhiking for ages. And then she wakes up and she realises that they're going in the completely wrong direction to where they need to go.
That she's not playing Dolphin Treasure at a casino in Las Vegas?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Maybe not at all. So she freaks out and confronts him and goes, what the hell are you doing? We're going the wrong way. Like, she knows where they need to go. Yeah. And he goes, I'm so sorry. I'm an honest man. I've made an honest mistake. I've obviously taken the wrong turn. Like, we'll get back on the right direction. So he pulls over. He's like, I just need to go to the toilet before we, like, head off. And she gets really nervous and she's just sitting in the front seat and she looks down and her shoelace is untied and she kind of thinks to herself, all right, if this guy tries to do anything to me, I might need to run. So I need to do my shoelace up. So she opens the van, she steps out and puts her foot up on the side to do her shoe up. And then she blacks out. He's hit her over the head with a sledgehammer.
Wow. Like over the back of the head and then...
You're not going to be laughing in a second, so that's what's really bad. So
just working with what I got. And all of a sudden she was out.
So he ties her up in the back of the van and then he spends the rest of the night into the morning sexually assaulting her.
Okay.
Right.
And now I feel bad.
Yep.
So you should.
So the whole time she's pleading with him to stop. He keeps going. She just says, I just want to be set free. And then he goes, all right, no worries. If you want me to set you free, I'll set you free. So they get out of the van and he unties her and he said, all right, I'll set you free. And so then he grabs a hatchet out of the back of the van and then he cuts her left arm off below the elbow.
Oh, gosh. Did not see that coming.
No.
That you were going to say that.
So then she's freaking out, just obviously screaming, going
do you
crazy.
think she's freaking out by this point?
Yep.
Jesus.
Then she grabs him with her right arm.
Yep.
So she's holding onto his arm.
The good arm.
The good arm, the one that she has left. And she's in shock, totally confused. And so then he takes the hatchet and then starts hacking off the right arm.
Oh,
goodness
gosh.
sake.
And then she falls backwards.
Yeah.
And she's kind of confused. She's in shock, whatever. And she doesn't
Got
realise.
no arms, can't break her fall.
That's when she realises that her right arm has been chopped off. But she's looking around. She's got no idea what's going on. She's got blood everywhere. She sees him flicking his arm around and she doesn't know why he's flicking his arm around, but it's because her right hand had been clawed onto his arm and he's flicking it off, trying to get her arm off.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
it's not attached to her anymore, but it's attached to him. So then she passes out and he thinks, right, she's going to die. She's going to bleed out. We're all good. So then he throws her off the side of a cliff, 30-foot cliff. Drives off.
Yep.
He thinks he's all in the clear.
And the arm's still attached to the ute, like the T-1000 in Terminator 2.
So she's passed out. She's broken 4 ribs as she's fallen down, and she's bleeding profusely. So she comes to. She puts her stumps into the.
Comes to.
She's alive still.
This is
No,
unbelievable.
This is you're
can't
making
be
this
real.
up. You're getting mad at us for taking
Yeah.
the piss, but honestly,
So
this does
okay,
not-
so let's just recap.
No.
She's got no arms.
Yep.
She's got broken ribs,
And completely naked.
and she's completely naked.
Yeah.
She's thrown her down the cliff. She uses her stumps and puts them in the dirt to stop the bleeding.
Hell of a day.
She then climbs up the 30-foot ravine up the cliff and gets
How did she climb up? How did she climb up? How did she
with
climb
her
up?
stump.
With her stump.
checked this.
I'll tell you the spoiler now. The reason I know that this happened is because she tells this story on a TV show called I Survived.
Absolute bullshit.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
calling bullshit.
Yes.
So she gets back up onto the highway and is stumbling down the highway. It took her all day to climb back up there with her stumps. It's now nighttime, stumbling along the highway, trying to find someone to save her. Two guys stop in a convertible. They see her and they speed off because they're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck is that?
And also, how did they know to stop? Because she didn't have an arm and a thumb to put out to hitchhike.
She you drive past her. I think she was trying to single us down, but it's like she was almost making us go the other way.
Another car drives past and it is a couple on their honeymoon.
Is this story not over yet?
I think you're making this up as we go along.
This is not right.
A couple come past, get her in the car, get her to hospital. She is able to give the police sketch artist the perfect description of him. So when they released the photo kit, his neighbour, Lawrence Singleton's neighbour, calls the police and goes, that is my neighbour.
Okay.
He was arrested.
Certainly didn't sketch the drawing herself.
That's all. So she described to the sketch artist.
She did.
wasn't sketching. I was sketching with her toes.
So he was arrested 9 days later.
God.
He blamed someone else and said that she was a $10 sex worker.
Lady of the night.
Yeah, I won't use the word that he used. She testifies against him in court. She now has prosthetic limbs. He's convicted of kidnapping, mayhem, attempted murder, forcible rape, sodomy, and forced oral copulation. Gets 14 years, which is the maximum sentence. He's out in 8.
Oh my gosh.
So they tried to release him back to California, where he was from, and they also tried to release him to Florida as well. In all the cities that they tried to release him to, everyone protested and rallied against it. The mayor said, no, not going to happen. So eventually, I think there was about 7 or 8 different cities that they tried to release him to. He had to be released to a trailer on the grounds of San Quentin Prison, where he had to just live out his 1 year of parole. But after that, free to go in the community.
What? So many dots that can't be joined.
Oh,
in this
I know.
story.
That's America for you, though.
Yeah.
One of the things, so after she testified in court, she walked past him and he said to her, if it's the last thing I do, I'll kill you. So she's had it, like you said, she's had a rough day.
Yeah, but she's like, you had a red hot crack last time.
Yeah.
Look what I did.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So eventually, after he's released, he goes back to Florida. And he's off the radar until 1997, until his neighbour calls the police. The neighbour sees him attacking a woman in his house. So the police arrive, open the door. He's standing there covered in blood because he has killed another woman, a mother of 3, and he stabbed her 12 times in the face and chest. So then he was finally put back in jail and sentenced to death, but he died of cancer in prison a few years later.
That's sad.
So yeah, Mary Vincent tells this story to the camera on a TV show from the US called I Survived.
Wow.
Prosthetic limbs and all.
Well, now you can have a joke.
Now that you know that she lives.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
Just a bit of an insight into the messed up minds of the Nova 919. Yeah. If you like that story, give us a thumbs up.